The confrontation. The Harbinger drifted through the void, its hull marked by patches of mismatched metal and streaks of carbon scoring that told stories of past battles. Captain Morgan Chen stood on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. The ship had been her home for 15 years, and despite its appearance, she trusted it more than any gleaming vessel in the Earth Defense Fleet. "Captain, we're picking up anomalous readings at the edge of the Epsilon system," Lieutenant Raj announced, his fingers dancing across the sensor array. "Multiple signatures, energy patterns unlike anything in our database." Morgan nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the concern that crawled up her spine. The Harbinger was on a routine supply run to Outpost Delta, one of humanity's furthest colonies. It wasn't supposed to be eventful. "Put it on screen," she ordered, and the main view screen flickered to life. What materialized before them sent a ripple of hushed whispers across the bridge. 7 vessels hung in space, their hulls a seamless silver blue that seemed to absorb and reflect starlight simultaneously. They were arranged in a perfect formation that mathematics would call elegant, a display of precision that human ships had never achieved. "Xeraxians," Commander Eliza Wu whispered, stepping closer to the screen. "We've only seen them in intelligence briefings. They've never ventured this far into human space." The Xeraxians were renowned throughout known space for their technological superiority and isolationist policies. First contact had been brief, cold, and concluded with the aliens establishing clearly defined borders that no human vessel had dared cross. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Devi Patel reported, surprise evident in her voice. "Standard galactic frequency." Morgan straightened her uniform jacket. On screen, the image shifted to reveal a Xeraxian. Its silver-scaled skin glistened beneath the lights of what appeared to be a command center far more advanced than the Harbinger's bridge. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, studied the humans with what Morgan recognized as disdain, even across species barriers. "Human vessel," the alien spoke, its voice modulated through translation algorithms. "You operate an obsolete craft in proximity to Xeraxian interests. Our scans reveal your ship functions at less than optimal efficiency and poses a navigation hazard. You will power down and prepare to be tractored to the nearest processing facility." Morgan felt her crew's eyes on her. The implied threat was clear. The Xeraxians weren't offering assistance. They were demanding submission. "This is Captain Morgan Chen of the Earth vessel Harbinger. We're on a sanctioned supply mission to a human colony within recognized Earth territories. We are not in violation of any agreement between our peoples." The Xeraxian commander's upper eyes narrowed. "Your understanding is irrelevant. Epsilon has been claimed for Xeraxian expansion. Your presence is unwelcome." Morgan's jaw tightened. "Epsilon has been a human territory for 30 years. We have settlements, families, which will be relocated." The Xeraxian interrupted. "Your technology is primitive. Your defenses inadequate. Observe." The transmission cut, and a moment later, a pulse of blue energy lanced from the lead Xeraxian vessel. It struck the Harbinger's shields, and the old ship groaned in protest. "Shields holding at 82%, reported Tactical Officer Raman. "That was just a warning shot, Captain. Their weapons are substantial." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "They expect us to roll over. Power up the Lazarus Protocol." A collective intake of breath swept across the bridge. The Lazarus Protocol was the Harbinger's best-kept secret, a system integration that had never been field-tested. "Captain," Commander Wu cautioned, "Lazarus is experimental. We don't know if—" "What we do know," Morgan interrupted, "is that those Xeraxians will either destroy this ship or escort us to be processed if we don't show them humanity isn't as primitive as they think." She turned to Engineer Yoshida. "Status of the Lazarus systems." Yoshida consulted his station. "Nominal. The adaptive phase shifting matrix is online. Quantum entanglement buffers are primed." Morgan nodded. "They've scanned us extensively. but Lazarus is shielded from conventional scans. They see only what we want them to see, an old battered ship on its last legs. She turned to her crew, her voice dropping to a tone reserved for moments of gravity. Earth Defense Command developed the Harbinger as a testbed. We look outdated because that's our first line of defense, being underestimated. The Xeraxians hailed again, and Morgan accepted the transmission with a gesture. Your shields performed better than anticipated, the commander acknowledged. Nevertheless, your resistance is futile. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Morgan allowed herself a small smile. I believe there's been a misunderstanding about human capabilities. We tend to innovate rather than simply iterate. Allow me to demonstrate. She nodded to Raman, who activated a sequence on his console. The Harbinger's apparent power signature fluctuated, then appeared to drop dramatically. Mimetic energy profile engage, Raman reported quietly. They'll read us as experiencing catastrophic power loss. On screen, the Xeraxian commander's posture shifted, a predator sensing weakness. Your systems are failing, the alien observed. Sensible decision. Prepare for tractor lock. As the lid Xeraxian vessel moved closer, Morgan gave another silent command. Raman's fingers flew across his console, and the Harbinger's true capabilities awakened. The adaptive phase-shifting matrix created a momentary inverse harmony with the Xeraxian tractor beam, causing it to rebound against its source. The alien vessel shuddered visibly as its own technology was turned against it. Direct hit to their primary tractor emitter, Raman reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. They're temporarily destabilized. The Xeraxian commander's face reappeared on screen, all four eyes wide with what could only be shock. What technology is this? Our scans indicated no such defensive capabilities. Human ingenuity, Morgan replied simply. We've learned to work with what we have, and sometimes that means developing solutions your rigid technological advancement paths haven't considered. The commander's scales rippled, a sign of agitation. You cannot hope to prevail against 7 Xeraxian vessels. This demonstration, while unexpected, changes nothing. Morgan leaned forward. Then perhaps you should know that we've been transmitting our encounter to Earth Defense Command since your first appearance. Our quantum entanglement communicators can't be detected or blocked by your systems. This was a calculated bluff. The Harbinger did have QE capabilities, but they were limited. Still, the flash of uncertainty across the Xeraxians' features told Morgan the gambit had worked. Furthermore, she continued, we've been analyzing your weapon signatures. Impressive, but not impenetrable. We've identified 3 distinct vulnerabilities in your defensive matrix. Commander Wu stepped forward. Your ships generate an oscillating power signature that suggests your shields aren't continuously uniform. There are microsecond gaps we can exploit. The Xeraxian commander's lower right eye twitched. You cannot have discerned such information in this brief encounter. As Captain Chen mentioned, Wu replied smoothly, humans innovate. Our adaptive sensors were cataloging your capabilities the moment you appeared. What Wu didn't mention was that the Harbinger sensors had been specifically designed to analyze unknown alien technology rapidly. It was another experimental system, one that had just proven its worth. The bridge fell silent as the Xeraxian commander conferred with others off-screen. Morgan used the moment to check the ship's actual status. Their shields were holding, but a prolonged engagement against 7 advanced vessels would be suicidal, regardless of their hidden advantages. Captain, Devi whispered urgently, I'm picking up encrypted transmissions between their vessels. They're discussing reinforcements. Morgan's mind raced. They needed to change the dynamics of this encounter before more Xeraxian ships arrived. The alien commander returned his attention to the screen. We will verify your claims regarding Earth Defense Command's awareness of this situation. If you have been truthful, perhaps there is room for diplomatic discussion regarding Epsilon. It was a small concession, but Morgan recognized it for what it was, the first crack in the Xeraxians' absolute certainty. We welcome diplomatic dialogue, she replied. However, we will continue our mission to Outpost Delta. The colony is expecting these supplies, and we won't leave them waiting." The commander's scales rippled again. "Unacceptable. You will remain here while we—" "Commander," Morgan cut in, her voice hardening, "you've seen a fraction of what the Harbinger can do. We were designed to test defensive capabilities, but I assure you, our offensive systems are equally innovative." She nodded to Ramen, who activated a targeted burst from their modified railguns. The kinetic projectiles, simple in concept but delivered with precision targeting, bypassed the lead Ziraxian vessel's shields through one of the microsecond fluctuations Wu had identified. The impact was minor, a glancing blow that scared the perfect hull of the alien ship but caused no critical damage. It was another demonstration, not an escalation. "The next volley won't be a warning," Morgan stated calmly. "We have families on Epsilon who depend on us. We will complete our mission." On screen, the Ziraxian commander's posture had changed completely. Where before there had been condescension, now there was wary reassessment. "You will be permitted to proceed to your colony," the commander finally stated. "However, a single vessel will escort you. This matter is not resolved, human. It is merely postponed." As the transmission ended, Morgan released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Around her, the bridge crew remained tense, aware that they had narrowly avoided disaster. "Prepare to continue on course to Outpost Delta," she ordered. "Maintain Lazarus Protocol active status and keep all systems at combat readiness." As the Harbinger resumed its journey with a Ziraxian escort maintaining a respectful distance, Morgan knew this was only the beginning. The Ziraxians had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake twice. What troubled her most wasn't the immediate danger they'd navigated, but what lay beneath the surface. Why were the Ziraxians suddenly interested in Epsilon? Intelligence reports had never suggested they had expansionist ambitions in this sector. Something had changed, and the Harbinger, with its patchwork hull and experimental systems, had just found itself at the center of what could become an interstellar conflict. Against all odds. The journey to Outpost Delta proceeded in tense silence. The Ziraxian vessel shadowed the Harbinger, maintaining a distance that was neither threatening nor friendly, a cold, calculated presence that Morgan felt like a knife at her throat. "Analysis complete, Captain," Commander Wu reported, joining Morgan at the viewport. "Their escort isn't standard Ziraxian design. It's more heavily armed than would be typical for a simple patrol vessel." Morgan nodded, unsurprised. "They're not escorting us. They're studying us. Everything we do is being recorded and transmitted back to their fleet. Should we employ countermeasures?" "No," Morgan decided after a moment's thought. "Let them look. The more they focus on understanding the Harbinger, the less attention they pay to Outpost Delta." The colony came into view as they rounded Epsilon's larger moon, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes and structures built into the rocky landscape of the planet's northern continent. Home to just over 3,000 colonists, it represented humanity's determination to expand beyond Earth's boundaries, despite the challenges of deep space colonization. "Captain," Devi called from communications, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Outpost Delta. Governor Kim is requesting immediate communication." Morgan frowned. The governor wasn't scheduled to contact them until their approach to the landing zone. "Put it through to my ready room." Minutes later, Morgan emerged from her ready room, her expression grim. "Change of plans. We're not making our scheduled landing." The bridge crew turned to her in surprise. "Governor Kim reports multiple unidentified vessels in orbit around Epsilon over the past week. They'd been scanning the planet extensively, focusing on the southern continent's mineral deposits. The Ziraxians," Wu concluded, "they'd been surveying Epsilon for its resources." Morgan nodded. "The governor has been trying to contact Earth Defense Command, but their long-range communications have been experiencing technical difficulties. I don't believe in coincidences." She turned to Ramen. "Set course for the southern continent. I want to see exactly what the Ziraxians find so interesting." Captain, Yoshida interjected. The supply delivery. We'll wait, Morgan finished firmly. Something bigger is happening here. And I need to understand what before we potentially lead the Ziraxians straight to our people. The Harbinger altered course, and predictably, the Ziraxian escort matched their trajectory, closing the distance slightly. They're hailing us, Devi reported. Ignore it, Morgan ordered. Let's see how they react when we don't play by their rules. The answer came minutes later in the form of a warning shot, a pulse of energy that passed close enough to the Harbinger to register on their sensors, but far enough to avoid actual contact. Now they have my attention, Morgan remarked dryly. Open a channel. The Ziraxian commander appeared, scales rippling with obvious irritation. You have deviated from your stated course to the human settlement. We've modified our mission parameters based on new information, Morgan replied evenly. Unless Epsilon has officially become Ziraxian territory in the last hour, we're well within our rights to explore our own colony world. Your presence in the southern hemisphere is unnecessary and unwelcome. Morgan's eyebrows rose. Interesting. You seem particularly concerned about that region. Care to explain why? The commander's scales flattened, a sign of control being exerted. Your primitive curiosity endangers the tentative accord we have established. Return to your original course. I don't recall establishing any accord that limited our movements on a human colony world, Morgan countered. We'll continue on our current heading. The transmission cut abruptly, and Morgan turned to her tactical officer. Raman, what's our weapons status? All systems primed, Captain. Lazarus protocol still active. And our special package. Raman smiled tightly. Ready for deployment on your command. The Ziraxian vessel accelerated, positioning itself directly in the Harbinger's path. They're powering weapons, Wu reported. Multiple targeting locks. Morgan took her seat in the command chair. All hands to battle stations. Activate full Lazarus capabilities and prepare the MAUL for deployment. The acronym sent a ripple of nervous energy through the bridge. The magnetically accelerated unguided limpet. MAUL was the Harbinger's most classified weapon system. Designed as a last resort, it had never been used in actual combat. Captain, Devi interrupted, multiple ships emerging from Epsilon's far side. 6. No, all 7 Ziraxian vessels from earlier. On the view screen, the silver-blue ships appeared like predators emerging from hiding, their formation tightening around the Harbinger and its escort. We're surrounded, Wu stated unnecessarily. Morgan's eyes narrowed. They never left. They'd been hiding behind the planet, waiting to spring their trap. The Ziraxian commander reappeared on screen. Your deception regarding Earth Defense Command's awareness of our encounter has been confirmed. No transmissions have left this system. You stand alone, Captain Chen. Morgan met the alien's gaze steadily. Humans are rarely truly alone, Commander. We tend to find allies in unexpected places. She signaled Raman with a subtle gesture, and the tactical officer's fingers flew across his console. The Harbinger's engines flared, pushing the old ship to speeds that would have torn apart a genuinely outdated vessel. They shot toward the surface of Epsilon, specifically toward the largest concentration of sensor readings from the southern continent. They're pursuing, Wu reported. All 8 vessels. They're firing. Energy beams sliced through space around them as the Harbinger executed evasive maneuvers. One struck their aft shields, causing the ship to shudder violently. Shields at 74%, Raman called out. We can't take many direct hits like that. We don't need to, Morgan replied. Deploy the MAUL. Target their lead vessel. Raman hesitated for just a moment, the weight of being the first to use an untested weapon in combat evident in his eyes, before executing the command. A series of small, unremarkable objects ejected from the Harbinger's launch tubes. They seemed insignificant compared to the energy weapons the Ziraxians wielded, drifting almost lazily toward the lead alien vessel. MAUL devices have attached, Raman confirmed. Initiating sequence. The devices, no larger than a human hand, affixed themselves to the Ziraxian hull using powerful electromagnets. Once secured, they began their true work, creating localized disruptions in the alien ship's shield harmonics and power distribution systems. On screen, the lead Ziraxian vessel's perfect hull began to ripple with energy distortions. Its weapons powered down, then back up, then down again in an uncontrolled cycle. "What have you done?" the Ziraxian commander demanded, the translation unable to hide the alarm in his voice. "Many ULOL devices," Morgan explained. "Magnetically accelerated unguided limpets. Simple in concept, they create chaotic feedback loops in advanced power systems. The more sophisticated your technology, the more vulnerable you are to them." The commander's scales flared in what might have been outrage. "This is barbaric. Primitive. Effective," Morgan corrected. "Sometimes the oldest solutions work best against the newest problems." The remaining Ziraxian vessels held their fire, clearly reassessing the threat this seemingly outdated human ship posed. "Captain," Yoshida called from engineering, "I'm picking up unusual readings from the planet's surface. There's something down there. Something big." Morgan focused the sensors on the coordinates Yoshida highlighted, and the bridge fell silent as the readings clarified. "That's why they're here," Wu whispered. "That's not a natural formation." Buried beneath the southern continent's surface was an artificial structure of enormous proportions. Its energy signature was unlike anything in human records, but it was clearly ancient, predating both human and Ziraxian presence in this sector by millennia. "They're not here to claim resources," Morgan realized. "They're after whatever technology is buried down there." The Ziraxian commander's transmission returned. "Captain Chen, you have demonstrated unexpected capabilities. Perhaps we have misjudged humanity's level of advancement." "Perhaps," Morgan agreed, noting how quickly the alien's tone had shifted from condescension to cautious respect. "The artifact beneath Epsilon's surface represents technology beyond either of our species' understanding." The commander continued. "We detected it 3 cycles ago and have been assessing its potential. On a human colony world, without notifying Earth authorities," Morgan pointed out. The commander's scales shifted in what might have been embarrassment. "The Ziraxian Consortium operates with autonomy in matters of technological acquisition." The implication was clear. This wasn't an official Ziraxian government operation, but rather something closer to a corporate venture, or perhaps even a rogue element within their society. Morgan considered her options. The Harbinger had proven itself capable in this confrontation, but prolonged conflict with 8 advanced vessels would eventually overwhelm them, especially if the Ziraxians adapted to their unconventional tactics. "Commander," she said finally, "I propose a joint investigation of the artifact. Equal access, equal sharing of discoveries. Epsilon remains under human jurisdiction, but we acknowledge your prior claim to discovery of the artifact itself." The offer surprised not only the Ziraxian but Morgan's own crew. It was a diplomatic solution where military posturing had been expected. "Your proposal has merit," the commander admitted after conferring off-screen with others. "The artifact's complexity would benefit from diverse analytical approaches." "And," Morgan added, "you'll need to restore Outpost Delta's long-range communications immediately. No more interference." The commander's upper eyes narrowed, but he nodded. "Acceptable." As the details of the unexpected alliance were negotiated, Commander Wu approached Morgan privately. "A bold move, Captain. Earth Defense Command might not approve of sharing access to alien technology found on our colony world." Morgan smiled slightly. "They might not. But they also couldn't get here in time to stop the Ziraxians from taking it entirely. Sometimes compromise yields better results than confrontation." She looked out at the planet below, where human colonists had built their homes unaware of what lay beneath their feet. "Besides, I'd rather have the Ziraxians where we can see them than operating in secret." Hours later, as the Harbinger finally completed its supply delivery to Outpost Delta, Morgan stood with Governor Kim, watching as joint human-Zeraxian teams established a research perimeter around the artifact site. "You know," Governor Kim mused, "when Earth Command sent an outdated supply vessel to support our colony, I was insulted. Now I understand they sent us their most valuable ship." Morgan glanced back at the Harbinger, its patchwork hull gleaming dully in Epsilon sunlight. "Never judge by appearances, Governor. Humanity has survived this long in a galaxy full of technologically superior species because we understand that sometimes the oldest tricks work best." As if to emphasize her point, a team of engineers was carefully retrieving the MHUL devices from the still-recovering Zeraxian vessel under the wary eyes of its crew. "The Zeraxians will adapt," Wu cautioned, joining them. "Next time, these tactics won't work." "Then we'll develop new ones," Morgan replied with a shrug. "That's the human way. We evolve, we adapt, we overcome. And sometimes, we turn potential enemies into reluctant partners." In orbit above them, the Zeraxian vessels maintained their position, their perfect hulls marred now by the encounter with the deceptively primitive human ship. It was a small victory in a vast galaxy, but for Morgan, it represented everything that made humanity a force to be reckoned with among the stars. Not because they had the best technology or the most powerful weapons, but because they had learned to use what they had with creativity and determination that continually surprised their would-be superiors. As night fell on Epsilon, the ancient artifact deep beneath its surface pulsed with energy that had waited millennia to be discovered, energy that would now be studied not by one species alone, but by two reluctant allies brought together by an old ship with new tricks.